What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter. Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. We're seeing more properties like this being built in front of a house that's going to be torn down soon. I understand that there are power lines that are just kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg, and that there is a commercial real estate building. I'm joined today with Marcus Rodgers. How you doing today, Marcus?
Doing great, Dan. Pleasure to have me on your platform. I appreciate it.
Awesome, awesome. And I'm sure my audience is happy to see you as well because in these chance encounters, this is how it works. I interview commercial real estate investors. I go through the 5 different motivations I find that are distinct among commercial real estate investors, and I say, which one really best describes you? Then what I do is I pull out the Dan Does Deals commercial roll die with the 6 different roles in a commercial deal. You can get your own one at dandoesdeals.com. It's free. I don't even ask for your email address, which is a really, really bad idea in online marketing, but I do it anyway because I want you to print it out. I want you to be able to effectively communicate on the subject of commercial real estate with your friends and family and whatnot. So you can go ahead, download that, print it out, test it out for yourself. But before we get too excited, Marcus, can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, so good morning, everybody. My name is Marcus Rodgers. I was born in Harlem and raised in the Bronx. So I'm born and raised in New York City.
Awesome, awesome. So let's go to the motivation piece. I always like to start off with the motivation piece because even the newbies know why they're doing it, but sometimes they don't know what role they're going to be taking. So there it is. So the first motivation I've found people have, some people are making more commercial acquisitions because they have to preserve their purchasing power. What that means is if you already have the assets with cash flow to make your ends meet, then you have to keep on making acquisitions to stave off inflation because inflation will ruin the entire party. So that's the first motivation. That's not really my priority right now. My priority is trading time directly for wealth. Okay. I have a background in technology, which is why I built 506 Beamy. I programmed it all. And what I realized though, is if you are a high salary or wage earner, then you're paying more income tax than anybody else. And so it hit me as like, well, why don't I pivot and find a way to use my skills where I'm being rewarded with equity instead of in salary. So that's my big motivation. But the next one is the most frequently chosen motivation, which is that people want to take control over their time. Now, maybe that means they want to work fewer weeks per month or fewer months per year or fewer days per week, whatever it is, retire sooner. Fast tracking retirement is the overall idea is that you want to, gear down a little bit and not hustle your entire life. But that's different from the next two. The next one is they are so ambitious, they want to buy their entire hometown. They're looking for that legacy wealth to make sure that their great grandchildren never have to hold a day job. So these guys are going to be hustling till they're in their 90s or something. It's just like these next group. Some people, they've picked a sector of society, a section of society, or maybe the environment or animals or something like that. And they realize the most effective way to make a real impact in society or in any cause is having wealth and financial assets to end up making those differences. So those are the 5 big motivations I found. So Marcus, for you, which of those best describe you and resonate with you?
Well, specifically, the one that resonates with me the most is buying time. Well, what the true meaning of wealth is buying your time so you can have the options to do what you want to do. So that's my reason or why to pursue real estate investing, because when you buy back your time, that's true wealth. And then you can have the options to do what you want, when you want, however you want it, with whomever. So I think that's my main reason. And then everything else falls into place where
Mhm.
the people around you can benefit the fruit of your labor for all the time that you invested your time in putting work in the real estate, working on yourself. So that's my main reason of why I wanted to see how far I could go, pretty much.
I love that. I love that. So let's find out what the method that you're going to use is. And for you in the audience, I go through this every single time just to make sure that we're crystal clear. I want to make sure that you can communicate effectively on the topic of commercial real estate. And to do that, I always start off with the repositioner role. A repositioner looks at a bunch of different properties. They're an acquisitions person, but the first thing that they're going to be doing is it's a fancy word, they're going to be underwriting the property. And that just means they're doing the math. They're finding out, does this property actually make the amount of money that they say it does right now? And they're doing other things like figuring out the demographics, the opportunity in that zone. But really what they're looking for is upside. And they're going through all this paperwork and all that kind of stuff. But how do they get upside? Well, the main tools in their tool belt, the first one is operations. If you stop more of those Benjamins from going down the toilet, then your property becomes worth more. But there's more to operations than just unclogging toilets, doing maintenance, mowing lawns, sweeping hallways, all that sort of stuff. There's also a marketing component, which is one of my fortes that I'm bringing to my GP teams. And the thing that the marketing comes in is to keep the vacancy rate low. But right now, real estate is so hot, operations on its own probably won't cut it. So the repositioner also gets a contractor team to do a value add, do renovations, make the units nicer so that people will be happy paying more in rent. That's true upside. So those are the first two different sides of upside. You can also get some advantages with loan rates. But if you're from the internet like me, you got a little bit of a problem. You're going to need a local. You're going to need the boots on the ground, somebody who can be there in an hour or two, and because it's not going to be me, because I'd have to go to the airport and get my passport and all that kind of ridiculousness. And no, thank you. And the list of these 4 people, that looks like they are the owners, especially if you're a tenant. But going back to the financier side here, the banks, the lenders, the capital raisers, whoever they happen to be, they're going to want to know something that I haven't mentioned yet. They'll look at the property, they'll look at the team that you've got to run it, but they're going to say, who's your sponsor? Who's your KP? And a sponsor or a KP is someone who already owns a similar asset. So one of the things that's a little counterintuitive is, even if you're the richest person on earth, if you want to buy, let's say, a 350 unit apartment complex and you want to get a loan, somebody in the fold has to already own a similar asset, or you're not going to be eligible for the loan. Now, there are 2 other requirements. One is you need a certain amount of liquidity, and then you also need a balance sheet of at least the amount of the loan. But if you have all of that, you've got yourself a commercial real estate deal. So Marcus, as far as core competencies or what you're looking to contribute to your next deal, what sides of that die are you strong with?
I'm strong with actually 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one is the underwriting, and the second one is local. Because how I started was I started in real estate doing seller financing deals. And when you do a seller financing deal, you have to personally underwrite the deal to see if it makes sense. And if it makes sense, then you decide to move forward and pick the right property manager, because all property managers are not created equal. So if once you underwrite it and the deal makes sense and the cash flow is flowing, the appreciation is just a bonus. Appreciation is important, but once you have positive cash flow day one when you buy, then everything comes into place. So the long story short, the underwriting and the local part, because if I'm not from that particular market, real estate is local. So you have to find somebody who knows that market very well and build a relationship. And I think those 2 I'm really good at from my experience.
Excellent. Excellent, excellent. So the next question I have for you then is the ideal property. Sometimes we call it a buy box. So when commercial investors are talking to each other and we're saying, what's your buy box? We're really talking about, I say 3.5 things. The first one is geography, which Marcus already mentioned. So really what they're asking is what states, what counties, okay? And, if you're talking a city, then it's like what neighborhoods, just that sort of level of specificity. The second thing is the unit count, okay? It doesn't matter what type of commercial real estate it is, except for industrial. You're going to be talking about the unit counts as far as like how many apartments does it have? If it's self-storage, same, how many storage units does it have, and so on. But the third one is class, and I say 3.5 because there's two different usages of the word class, and they use the exact same rating system for both of them, and I don't like that, but c'est la vie. The first meaning of it, it's talking about the area that the property is located in. So that's the crime rate, the proximity to schools, like good schools and whatnot. But the other one for class is the condition of the actual building. Like, is it beat up? Is it like spectacular? Like, what is it? And both of those have the same rating system, just like in grade school, B, B plus, A minus, A plus, and so on. So as far as the type of property where it's easier for you to say yes, and it's more difficult for you to say no, Marcus. Can you describe that, please?
The class properties that I prefer is B and C class neighborhoods. The reason why is because the C class and the B class, that's when the cash flow is mostly generous, and usually those type of properties have deferred maintenance, so you could do a forced appreciation and raise the value and not necessarily focus too much on appreciation. But obviously when you're building it or making repairs, the value is automatically going to go up, but the cash flow is either going to stay the same or increase, and it's recession resistant. So B and C classes is what I prefer the most.
And as far as like geography, like you mentioned, you're from New York, but like as far as like states or whatever, you said you were also a local. So it is going to be in New York, or did you relocate, or?
Oh, so that's a great question. I started in New York, and after I got involved, I started to realize that it's not landlord friendly.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It's like you don't even own your own property.
yeah,
It's
it's
yeah.
I made so many mistakes starting in New York. I don't regret it, but I started in New York, realized a lot of politics going on. So Ohio, Delaware, and PA are the markets that I focus on because it's landlord friendly. The cash flow is amazing, and a lot of big companies are going to those markets. And when big companies go to those markets, that means more jobs. Because really, when it's all said and done, the jobs is the big piece to make sure which market you go into, what type of tenants, what type of class. So those are my markets.
Right, exactly. Yeah, the stability so that your tenants will have steady employment and they'll be able to pay their bills. That makes lots of sense. So my next question then, it has to do with the different roles again, but one of my favorite things about commercial real estate is that we're so eager to help each other, and I think that that's because nobody is going to be all six roles in any reasonably sized deal. So we need to help each other. We need to work with each other. And we're very rarely in direct competition, which is why we're so helpful. But having said that, we're all better suited to help some people than others. Some people are more for beginners. Me personally, because I'm the internet guy, I'm best suited to help sponsors and KPs, because they're the kinds of people who can they already have some systems in place and a track record, so I can help them scale. But how about you, Marcus? And don't break any SEC restrictions. So you're not allowed to entice investors unless you have a 506c raise. But who are you best suited to help?
I'm best suited to help the beginner and the intermediate, if you will. Building relationships is important. It's everything. It's more important than money. Money is important, but building the relationships is definitely key to the whole situation. So between beginners and intermediates, and over time, I'll graduate and work my way up.
All right, excellent, excellent. So, and then as far as we ended up meeting through a meetup, if I recall, and I'm usually found on LinkedIn very easily, and my name is really easy to spot because it's unique. But what's the best way to reach out to you if you're a good fit for the people in the audience?
Uh, you can contact me through my Instagram. I'm just getting started on my Instagram, so bear with me, guys. But my Instagram is I am Mr. Rodgers, like Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. So I
Mhm.
am Mr. Rodgers with a D as in David and Instagram.
Excellent. Excellent. So there's only one thing left, which is actually for you in the audience, which is if you look under my left hand, there's this, well, it depends on if you're on a phone or on a desktop. If you're on a desktop, there's this big, ugly red button and it says subscribe. And it's really important that you get rid of it. The way that you get rid of it, you click on it and it turns gray. And it's much nicer because that means YouTube will pay for these videos instead of me. And that's amazing, right? It costs you absolutely nothing. You don't have to pay anything. You don't have to add your email or any ridiculousness like that. And all it really does, as far as you're concerned, is it means that my videos might show up on your list of suggestions. There's no guarantee of that, but you wouldn't even have to watch those because you've already done me an enormous favor by clicking the button. Just like Marcus, you've done me an enormous favor by joining me today. This has been great. Thanks.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you allowing me to be on your platform, and it's all about relationships at the end of the day. So thank you.
For sure. For sure. Awesome. Thanks. Hey, thanks for watching today. I want to say a quick word about 506B Me. You may know that these interviews are how I document my investor relationships for 506B compliance. Basically, you need to know the person that you're working with enough that you know their level of sophistication at the very, very minimum. And that's exactly what we're doing. If you're a commercial investor and if you've ever put any thought into what would happen if somebody says they were publicly solicited and you don't have the proper documentation, maybe it's something you didn't think of. I'm the kind of person who does think of that because I used to work for a CRM company. So I was sitting there saying, okay, well, how do you tag people? What kind of forms do you write? What kind of things do you make them accept? And then what do you end up showing people? Sure, it's in the old noodle, but really what you need is a third-party verification service. But the problem is, who can you trust with your list? That's something that I know from working for web.com back in the day. But anyway, I set up 506B Me so that if you're at a live event, you just pull out your phone. It's got the QR code. They pull out their phone, they scan it, boom, and you're added to their watch list so that when they get back to the hotel room or they get back home, they know everybody who they have to check out in these little punchy 15-minute interviews. Anyway, if you are a commercial investor or even if you're thinking about it, do 506B Me after this. Thanks.